Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, a potential clash that's got the entire boxing world buzzing. On one hand, you've got Canelo, the face of Mexican boxing, proven at 168. On the other, Terence Crawford, arguably the pound-for-pound king, dominating every division he's stepped into. But can supreme skill overcome size and raw power? Let's break down what the experts and insiders are saying about this super fight and why it's stirring up so much debate. Juan Manuel Marquez kicks things off by giving Canelo his flowers. He highlights Canelo's experience, his ability to defend titles, and his overall dominance. Even though he mentions a lesser-known opponent like William School, the message is clear: Canelo has seen it all, done it all, and possesses a complete package. Marquez subtly implies that Crawford, despite his skill, is entering the lion's den when facing a fighter this season.
Canelo Alvarez is a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He defends his titles against William School. William School is a good fighter, but I think the experience, the power, Canelo has everything.
Marquez then expresses a more personal stance. He simply doesn't like to fight. His reasoning? Boxing has weight classes for a reason. It's not just about skill. It's about safety, structure, and logic. He doesn't doubt Crawford's abilities, but is skeptical about the fairness and viability of the matchup. For Marquez, this isn't just a mismatch, it's a potential risk.
I don't like the fight because Terence Crawford is a good fighter, but in the sport of boxing, it has divisions. You know what I mean? You know?
Right, weight classes.
You know what?
Right.
Yeah, weight classes
for a reason.
Weight classes for
Still on Marquez, he does acknowledge Crawford's greatness, especially his defense and combinations. But again, he brings it back to the weight class. Despite giving Crawford credit, he warns that size matters in this equation. It's a tough fight, and he sees the weight jump as a major disadvantage for Crawford.
Two more divisions, I think it's a tough fight for Terence Crawford, but Terence Crawford is a great fighter. He has a great defense. He has a good combination of punches, but I think the weight class is no good for him.
Rob Acosta, a respected weight coach, dives deep into the science of weight. He points out that Crawford walking around at 180 pounds and dropping to 168 is deceptive. Crawford bulked up unnaturally by eating, not training. That's crucial. You can't eat your way up and expect to dominate a natural super middleweight. The message is simple. Size isn't just about pounds. It's about how you get there.
Now we're talking about Crawford. Crawford has come from 140, 147, 154. He's going to skip 60 and go straight to 68. So let's just say Crawford walks around 180. Okay, walks around 180. He's going to come down those 12 pounds, make it 68. He ate his way up to 180. Understand that. He didn't work out his way up to 180.
Acosta continues by referencing Crawford's durability. He's taken solid shots and given them back, but that was at welterweight. Now he'll be taking punches from someone who survived Triple G's bombs. It's not that Crawford can't fight, it's that this level of power is something he hasn't encountered. Acosta doesn't see him walking through Canelo the way he did others. Not even close.
It kind of took away that Crawford got hit with good shots. He took it well. Crawford also gave him some good shots. He took it well. What do you think is going to happen at 168? Canelo's been hit by Triple G, one of the hardest punches in boxing. You mean to tell me that Crawford's going to go up there and just clean him out? Nah, that's not happening.
Despite his concerns, Acosta admits Crawford would pose a unique challenge for Canelo. He calls Crawford the most athletic and highest IQ fighter Canelo would face since Floyd Mayweather. That's a huge statement. It suggests that even if the size gap is real, the threat of Crawford's mind and movement can't be dismissed.
The athleticism of Crawford will give Canelo problems. Yeah, I do agree with that, because if you really look at it from an overall picture, Canelo fighting Crawford would be the most athletic, skilled, and I say higher IQ fighter than he has fought since Floyd.
In another technical insight, Acosta explores what Crawford's hydration and rehydration might look like. If he comes in under 168 and rehydrates close to 175, he's still not naturally built for that frame. Canelo, on the other hand, lives in that zone. The implication? You can mimic the weight on the scale, but you can't fake the fight night feel. That matters when you're trading shots with someone like Canelo.
But I just think that if he goes from 54 skips 60, goes to 68, then steps on the scale. He comes in under. So let's just say he comes in 65. Then he hydrates to what? What's he going to hydrate to? 175? 160? 178? You walk around in that weight. Now you fight at that weight and go ahead and try to see what happens when you go in there with a top competitor like Canelo.
Acosta also gives props to Crawford's athleticism. He notes that Crawford isn't just a boxer he wrestles, he lifts, and he trains with top-tier coaches. They've turned him into a super fighter. That's why he's dominated multiple divisions. Still, Acosta seems to be saying, while all of that makes him elite, it doesn't erase the dangers of stepping up into a world where your opponent has both the skill and the size.
Now, one thing I do give Crawford, he's incredibly athletic. He's not just into boxing. He does wrestling. He does weight train. You know what I mean? And you know, he has a good strength coach. He has a good strength team. You know, he has Bomac. So I understand how they can all work together to create this
Another voice weighs in undisclosed, but the point is sharp. Even if Crawford bulks up to 162 to 163 on fight night, it doesn't change the fact that Canelo is naturally bigger. Canelo has taken bombs from true middleweights and super middleweights without flinching. This person believes the fight shouldn't happen, full stop. Not because Crawford isn't good, but because Canelo's natural attributes are simply too much.
Yeah, it's two different people. Yes, Crawford will gain the weight. Yes, he will be probably around 160, 162, 63 in fight time. But Canelo's a bigger man. Canelo is taking shots from big guys, and nobody has done anything to him. So I don't think this fight. I don't think, I've said it all along. I don't think this fight should happen. But
finally, Abel Sanchez echoes this sentiment. It's not about talent, it's about physicality. Crawford might outbox some of the best, but he's never dealt with someone who combines size, experience, and power like Canelo. Sanchez foresees a scenario where Canelo eventually catches and punishes Crawford, not due to a lack of skill, but because physics and boxing tradition don't lie.
I think so. Yes. And it's not because Terence is not talented. Terence is a talented fighter. It's just that you're talking about a big man who's used to fighting those big guys. Eventually, he will catch Crawford. Eventually, he will and punish Crawford and hurt him.
Jim Lampley steps in with a simple yet powerful observation: the weight gap, whether 14 or 21 pounds, is massive, and in elite boxing, that matters. Fighters don't just jump up divisions and dominate. Lampley stresses that this is a manageable gap. It's a chasm that even elite skills might not be able to bridge. His tone? Realistic, not anti-Crawford, just pro-reality.
Well, my first thought is whether it's 14 pounds and 21 pounds, it's a big gap. And it's not the kind of gap that fighters are normally able to easily deal with, particularly in the middle range of weight classes.
He continues by walking us through Crawford's weight journey: 135, 140, 147, and just once at 154. Now suddenly 168? That leap is unheard of. While he admits the matchup is fascinating, Lampley hints that the romanticism of the idea shouldn't overshadow the physical limitations. Crawford has no resume at super middleweight. It's a massive gamble with unknown consequences.
Terence Crawford has not fought at 168 pounds. Terence Crawford, to my knowledge, has fought once at 154 pounds. I saw him at 135, 140, 147. I watched his genesis through those weight classes. I think he's a fantastic fighter.
Lampley, showing great respect for Crawford, delivers a hard truth. As brilliant as Crawford is, Canelo comes from a different breed of fighter. At 168, you're not just facing skill, you're facing tanks. He acknowledges the optimism some experts hold about Crawford's adaptability, but he's skeptical. If you can't hurt your opponent, you're in survival mode, and survival isn't winning.
So I have nothing but the highest opinion of Terence Crawford, but Canelo Alvarez is a different fighter from a different weight class. And, 168 pounds is a long way up from 147. So I've run across a couple of expert opinions who say, oh yes, Terence will be fine at this weight. He's going to win. And I've run across a couple of other expert opinions that say, what is he, crazy? He's going in against a guy whom he can't hurt.
Now Lampley drops one of the most underrated yet significant points Canelo's chin. According to him, no one in boxing has better punch resistance. Forget knockouts, Canelo has barely even touched the canvas. The only time he was ruled down was a questionable call against Cotto's brother. If Crawford can't hurt him in history, says he won't, how does he win?
How does Terence hurt Canelo Alvarez, who to my way of thinking has the strongest punch resistance in the sport? Great chin, great legs. I think the legs are more of it than the chin per se. But the bottom line is nobody's had him down on the canvas. The only official knockdown ever in Canelo's career was a situation where he got knocked back into the ropes by Miguel Cotto's little brother, and the referee ruled that the ropes had held him up. That's officially a knockdown, but
Paul Kroll finishes the breakdown with a philosophical boxing truth. A good big man beats a good little man unless the little man is Floyd Mayweather. He sees Crawford as explosive and willing to take risks, but ultimately leans toward Canelo as a favorite. Still, he leaves the door open. If the skill gap is huge, as it was with Floyd, anything's possible. But that's a massive if.
I think Canelo the favorite. You know what I mean? Just it's gonna come down to if his skill set is who has a bigger gap in his skill set. Because really, a good big man always gonna be a good little man if the skill is close or Canelo's skill better. But if there's a big gap in it, like it was with Floyd and Canelo, Crawford pulled it out. Now I can see 2 ways because Crawford a little more explosive, meaner, so he's gonna take more chances. He ain't gonna do no Charlie shit. He's gonna try to fight, try to win. So
one analyst questioned what Terence Crawford's true plan is for winning against larger opponents, implying that simply outboxing his opponent might not be enough. While they acknowledge that Crawford's best approach could be to avoid damage and dominate each round tactically, there's still uncertainty about whether he has an alternate strategy up his sleeve. This exposes a key dilemma in high-stakes matchups. Can a masterful technician really rely on perfection over power for 12 straight rounds? Or is Crawford preparing something unexpected? The comment also nodded to an old boxing adage dash, a good big man beats a good little man, reminding us that strategy alone might not close a physical gap.
win the fight other than a boxing paint job. If Terence is going to tell me my way to win the fight is I'm going to outbox him every second of every round and he's not going to find me, that's probably the right plan in my particular view. But, maybe Terence has something else in mind.
Another voice in the conversation acknowledged that if this matchup comes to life, it would attract major public interest, not just of technical clash, but because both fighters bring serious charisma. While the speaker doesn't necessarily agree that size automatically gives one the upper hand, they recognize the crowd's hunger for drama, spectacle, and style. It's not just about who's bigger or more skilled, it's also about star power, media buzz, and how fighters carry themselves outside the ring. This frames the fight not only as a physical showdown, but as a battle for the spotlight, with size adding intrigue to an already captivating narrative.
That's the case, but if you say a lot of people believe that, then that's fine. I think, that would be a fight that would get a ton of public attention, and they're both colorful and charismatic fighters. So, yeah.
So, where do we land? Terence Crawford is daring to be great, aiming to do what only legends even consider jump into the fire, 2 divisions up and try to tame a monster. But Canelo Alvarez isn't just any monster. He's proven at 168, he's durable and he's dangerous. Skill may be the ultimate equalizer, but will it be enough this time? The experts are split, but one thing's for sure. If this fight happens, the world will be watching. If you're loving deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us in the comments who wins, Canelo or Crawford. More high-level boxing breakdowns are coming soon, only on BoxaHub.